Well, we move on now to the great debate.
What we've said is that training departments are a waste of time. And that's being delivered to a group of 200 or 150 people who are members of a training department. So I'd be very interested to see how that goes, whether it's just that the proposers of the motion are given no time and short shrift, or people are listening and saying, yeah, maybe I have got to change. Maybe there are things wrong with the way that we deliver things at the moment.
You've got these sort of red and green cards. That's going to enable you to vote both at the beginning and at the end of the debate. So hold up your cards now. The green side, if you support the idea that training departments are increasingly part of the problem. The red side, if you are against the motion. Okay, so at the moment, I would hazard a guess, as most people being in favour of the motion. So at the moment, Donald, it's looking like a bit of a shoo-in for you, but we'll see, because everything could change. So you have 5 minutes to propose our motion.
Okay. I thought this was going to be a really tough gig. I thought, saying training is crap to a bunch of trainers. I was shocked the very first day I walked into the industry at how poor the underpinning theory was, how odd the practice was, how bizarre the evaluation was. And I can honestly say that 27 years on, hardly any of that has changed. Well, let me start with a couple of stats here. This was a survey of 100 decision makers, not L&D people, but people who had budgets that they gave to L&D people this year. 55% of them believed that L&D was failing to deliver the necessary training. Over half. Less than 18% agreed that L&D is aligned with its business goals. 46% doubted that L&D could actually deliver. The only thing that matters is impact in your organisation, and how much training gets evaluated at that level. Next to nothing. Why? Because trainers themselves stick with those crap old 50-year-old theories.
What we've seen with new media coming along, with new methods, with new approaches, with new ways of being able to deliver performance more effectively, we are seeing more and more, an increasing number of situations where the learning and development function within an organisation is stepping up and driving change within that organisation. I'm going to challenge this. We need to bring in something new. So increasingly we're seeing training departments stepping up to the challenge, being part of the solution, but only when their business will let them.
When I read the motion, I kind of had an underlying kind of sneaky sense that this was resonating with something that was worrying me in what I was finding going about my day job for the BBC Academy. All of us came from the business in terms of the leadership of the Academy. And 4 things struck us really strongly at the start. What we absolutely needed was credibility at the top table of the business. Without that, everything failed. Secondly, we absolutely needed to understand and articulate what the business needed from training to drive it forwards. Third thing is we had to be able to demonstrate in a simple, straightforward way that the business understood as to what value we were putting back into the business. And the fourth thing, and we feel really passionately about this, that we wanted to demonstrate we were the A team, we were the brightest and the best, and at the BBC Academy, if you had a skill and an expertise in the business, you actually felt that you might want to come and work with us, albeit temporarily, to pass that expertise on.
So, Craig.
Thank you. Donald. First, you tell me that you don't like training professionals. Then you tell me you don't like bankers. And then you tell me that you don't like diversity people. I don't feel as though it's a great start. I'd like to turn back a little bit on the motion and say, yes, I appreciate the need for on-the-job training and recent experience, but that's got to be underpinned by something much more fundamental, a much broader appreciation of roles to give people flexibility and confidence in the work that they do.
Thanks. It was a question for Craig, really. I'm really heartened to hear that you've made a success of the diversity programme, because there are very few good examples of that kind of training. What I'd like to know is how do you know that that programme was a success?
Because you see light bulb moments in the room, actually.
If you're going to remove learning and development from an organisation, how would you accommodate an individual who wants to progress, learn, gain skill, knowledge, confidence? What would you put in its place?
Well, I'm saying I'm not arguing for the replacement of it. I'm saying that if it doesn't sweep away all this crap old theory, if it doesn't update itself in practice and change its views and evaluation, it will be painting itself into a deep and dark ghettoized corner.
What I think we should be talking about more, particularly because we're journalists, are the hard skills. And certainly at a place like Bloomberg, where speed and accuracy are the most important things in journalism, it would be total anarchy if we were not teaching those hard skills.
I think this is absolutely spot on, and this is a return to core practical competencies.
If you look at the balance sheets of many companies, you'll see that the learning and development, it's a cost. It's very rare to see it as an investment. So my question to all of you is, how do we move from what is a vicious circle to a virtuous circle that Laura, and Craig, you were indicating could be there if you were able to really take on the challenge of the business?
It's interesting, if you look at Towards Maturity's recent survey on trends, there has been this big boost in the use of technology because, why? Because trainers have been forced to do it against their will. That's the truth of the matter. The budgets aren't there to send people off to those little brick crap hotels with little black and white televisions always, The money isn't there to do that stuff any longer. So their hands are being prized up their back and they're being forced to use the technology and hiring people like Peter to come into the organisation to change things. 5 years ago, Peter would never have got a job in Lloyd's. The credit crunches come along, suddenly they're being forced to use technology. It's not because the culture wants it.
I think people like Peter are using that type of system because it's good business practice. We want to deliver a learning and development function which is respected by the business for delivering the best possible training at the lowest possible cost. And that's what the folks in this room are in the business of. So it's not that anybody's being forced to use technologies, it's the right thing to do.
And that's where I will come back to the point that we're debating today, that actually we're increasingly becoming part of the solution because of our increased willingness to be able to say what we did in the past hasn't worked. Let's look towards the future. Let's redefine who it is that we are. Let's enable new types of conversations.
When I first joined the BBC Academy, we run something called the Writers' Academy, which is really, trying to develop writers into continuous drama. And there was a huge kind of file of evaluation, and part of my job at the BBC is to look after evaluation. I said, come on, tell me, what's the benefit to the business of this Writers' Academy? And I got presented with this file, and I said, well, yes. And somewhere, I parodied it for effect really, on page 57 was a stat that says over the last 2 years, 26 people have come out of this academy and 23 are now writing full-time in continuous drama. Job done for me in terms of evaluation, because I can then meet somebody in the lift, I can talk to the people that matter and say, you know what, 23 out of 26 are now writing on Holby, EastEnders, Casualty, they're in the business.
Absolutely right on evaluation. There is only one thing, which is influencing decision makers. That's what marketing departments do, sales departments do, is what training departments are really poor at doing. We have to influence decision makers. And that's why you need the 1-2 page short, sharp messages up the line and not a whole lot of crap data from happy sheets.
I thought the debate this morning was really interesting, and I agreed with a lot of the things about how training within, organisations sometimes doesn't really help itself.
I always think a debate is, a good way to sort of spark your imagination.
Anything you can do where we challenge the norm, challenge kind of current practice, sort of you refer to it as default mode, as opposed to doing things very differently and challenging old models and theories, I think is really cool.
Ultimately, I think it boiled down to a debate around kind of training versus learning, by which I mean, I don't think anyone would disagree that old techniques, old methodologies probably don't deliver the sort of results we're looking for.
It's all about showing how you can add value to the business, so it's making sure that the business leaders can see what the training has given back to them.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to vote now. Let's see whether our debaters have managed to change your minds. Oh, well, I think there is a change there, actually. Can I just say thank you very much for contributing to that debate. Very, very lively, some tremendous arguments. It's been very hard sitting here in the middle and keeping quiet. But if you are coming along to our sort of evening awards ceremony, you might get a clue about which side I'm actually on. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to our panellists.